Let's talk about all of the farmers that are going to be impacted by these Trump tariffs and these Trump trade wars and this Trump session that is coming, especially as Doge is cutting things, all these funds and everything. And while the administration is running out their labor force, so many different ways that this environment is impacting these people. And most of these people voted for Trump. So they voted for this. So we're going to talk about it. I did put this story in The Leopards Ate My Face, and I'm about to do it again because I'm going to read the story. So this man, it says, "This is pushing me left. Beekeeper who voted for Trump 3 times hit hard by the economy." A beekeeper who voted for Trump every chance he got expressed regret over his choice in the most recent election. North Carolina farmer Jim Hartman, who operates Secret Garden Bees, told CNN that he voted for Trump all 3 times, but he's not sure he would have made the same decision in November if he knew what the president's tariffs and funding cuts would do to his honey business. "I never thought I was going to lose this much money this fast." Hartman said he could lose half of his annual income due to Trump's tariffs and Elon Musk cuts to the federal budget, saying nearly half of his business comes from selling honey to the government to use at food banks and schools through the Department of Agriculture that was suddenly ended. For a lot of other local farmers around here, that was a major source of reliable revenue. For me, it's going to cost me around $150,000 a year, roughly 50% of my revenue. That's a massive hit. Tariffs haven't impacted his business yet, but they could the next time he needs to purchase some needed supplies. We just bought our year supplies of bottles from Taiwan and our year supply of corks from Portugal about 3 weeks ago. So that would have been another 50 or 60,000 out of my pocket. We live in a global economy. So many people in America ignorantly think that you can just buy everything here. That is idiotic. We are in a global economy. Things come from all over the place, and folks just have to accept that we're buying things from other countries. The farmer was also troubled by the president's approach to the tariffs, which he suspended for 90 days for most countries, but raised China's rate to 145% this week. He's flip-flopped so many times you can't take it to the bank. The Army veteran and lifelong Republican has been taking stock of his choices during the early months of Trump's presidency, although he doesn't blame him personally for the economic pain. "Stuff like this is pushing me left," Hartman told the Wall Street Journal last month in a separate interview. "The people he's appointed and the way they're going about things, it's not okay." You see how he's still hesitant to lay the blame at the feet of Trump, even though Trump came out and specifically said that he was going to do tariffs, and the tariffs triggered the trade war, and the trade war is triggering the Trump session, or maybe the Trump-pression, as in going to be the greatest depression yet. Now let's talk about the cotton industry. So this is a farm journal from AG Web. Cotton farmers describe somber situation. "We've gone beyond losing money to now losing the farm. Cheap cotton prices and dwindling demand are just part of the problem. Input costs have climbed and there's no safety net to be found in a new farm bill. One Georgia farmer says the current farm bill is irrelevant and worthless. And if a new one doesn't get passed this year, the cotton industry is doomed." In many areas of the South, cotton is king. It's a dependable crop, and in turn, it's made farmers loyal to what they grow. But with cotton prices falling below farmers' break even, that crop is causing financial pain to even grow. And it's important to note that many farmers in the South voted for Trump. So I'm just putting that out there again as a reminder that farmers for Trump is a thing. Go America. "I've been farming for 48 years, and I can't remember anything in a year that's been as challenging as the way it's been the last couple of years," said Franz Rowland, who grows cotton in Boston, Georgia. The South Georgia farmer says cheap cotton prices are one problem, and the skyrocketing input costs are another. "We're going to plant cotton and don't even have a clue if we're going to get our money back," he says. "There's no farm bill to support us, and the reference price is so low that it's not anything we can depend on. So we're going to put several $1,000,000 in the ground and don't even know if we're going to get it back." Cotton is a high input crop that requires a heavy dose of fertilizer and intensive pest and weed management. But in addition to that, today's cotton farmers are dealing with rising cost of equipment. It used to be a cost, but it wasn't a terribly high cost. And today, one of the highest costs we have is machinery. Cotton pickers are over $1 million, and nobody makes a cotton picker but John Deere, so we don't have a choice. The death of agriculture in West Texas. It's a situation that's not unique to South Georgia, though. Cotton farmers across the entire U.S. are grappling with the same uneasiness of growing cotton in 2025. In West Texas, it's especially hard. The West Texas area is critical for cotton production. USDA shows Texas growers produce 42% of the country's cotton. The area surrounding Lubbock, Texas is known as the largest cotton patch in the United States. And right now, nearly 68% is dealing with some level of drought. It feels like the death of agriculture somewhat in our area. Dryland farms really don't pencil out on hardly anything, says Heath Heinrich, a cotton and sorghum farmer located south of Lubbock in Slayton, Texas. Heinrich grows cotton, sorghum, and wheat just south of Lubbock, Texas, and he says it feels like a losing battle for farming in his area this year. We're surrounded by political movements. We're surrounded by tariffs, by markets, and then Mother Nature and business on top of it. And it's like we are trying to battle so many fronts right now that it's hard to tell if we're gaining any ground, or if it's leading to our demise. Drought has gripped Heinrich's area for multiple years. It's so dry they've struggled to even get the wheat that was planted in the fall to grow this past winter. Beyond losing money, as president and CEO of National Cotton Council, Gary Adams sees and hears the somber situation for U.S. cotton farmers from coast to coast. Adams says the outlook for 2025 is even worse than 2024. We've gone beyond just losing money now to the point where we're to the point of losing the farm. Unfortunately, where the industry is, that's what it looks like as we're going into 2025. So I'm going to end that one there. The article does continue, but I'm going to move on to one more article for this particular video. More farm news. Farmers try to keep food on the table despite Trump. Thanks to Trump's immigration and tariff policies, the outlook for agriculture is cloudy. Remember, Trump promised bloody mass deportations. That was in his campaign. Obviously, this was going to impact farmers. All right, it says, Trump's push for mass deportations was always reliant on a degree of shock and awe. Fear and intimidation were both means and ends, but recently the administration has had to slow down or even abandon individual deportations in the face of strong popular resistance. And now the president is signaling another huge exception to his deportation policy. We're also going to work with farmers, Trump said Thursday. If they have strong recommendations for their farms for certain people, we're going to let them stay for a while. We have to take care of our farmers and our hotels and various places where they need the people. Yes, that's true. These people bring value, and we have been talking about this. We talked about it throughout the campaign. Trump's off-the-cuff comments aren't necessarily government policy, but they often signal future policy directions. In this case, it sounds like Trump is getting ready to carve out exemptions from his deportation regime for agricultural workers. After all, Trump is right. Bear with me that farms have a special need for immigrant labor. In February, Senator Adam Schiff of California met with California Citrus Mutual, a trade association that represents growers who provide 90% of the country's lemons, grapefruits, and oranges. Already, just days into Trump's second term, the association was concerned about the impact of Trump's then hypothetical tariffs could have on the Central Valley. And the group's president and CEO, Casey Creamer, had warned that immigration aid raids threatened the food supply. The problem antedated the Trump administration. After major raids in early January by Customs and Border Protection in Kern County, one citrus operation reported that 25% of its workers didn't show up, according to Creamer. By the following day, that number had climbed to 75%. Locals and labor groups interpret those pre-inauguration raids as the agency trying to impress the incoming president. Trump's combination of tariffs and deportations has rattled farmers and growers in California who provide more than a third of the nation's vegetables and more than 3/4 of the country's fruit and nuts. Farmers in California and across the country are being hit with a trifecta of damaging Republican policies. Chaotic tariffs, haphazard mass deportations, and massive cuts to federal programs they rely on, Senator Alex Padilla, a Democrat from California, told The Bulwark. These reckless actions are leaving farmers in a dangerous limbo, unable to plan for the future and without the workforce that fuels their industry. For his part, Schiff has pointed out that while Trump has made an effort to compensate farmers who were hurt during the first round of tariffs 4 years ago, the compensation was not evenly distributed, and specialty crop farmers in California got very little compared to farmers elsewhere. So I don't think anyone should expect to be made whole if we go through another round of that. Representative Jimmy Gomez, a Democrat from California, whose father in the 1950s was part of the Bracero program that brought temporary farm laborers from Mexico to the United States, recently held a town hall in agricultural hub of Bakersfield to hear voter concerns. He said Republicans like Representative David Valdeo, who represents the district, are AWOL. People tend to forget we're the breadbasket of the United States, Gomez told The Bulwark. These tariffs, when it comes to the trade war that Trump, is starting to wage, first it was a trade war against everybody, which is having a ripple effect even if turned off, but it's still on with China. And China is going to retaliate, and that's going to cause more hardship for the agriculture industry. So on one end, you have that trade war, but you also need people to pick the crop and make sure things get to market. There are so many things going wrong in this current political climate, but we should have known that this was coming because he told us that he was planning on tariffing people. He told us he was planning bloody mass deportations. Obviously, all of this combined together on top of all of the extra storms that we're seeing. California seeing wildfires. We're seeing all of this, and we need strong leadership. We don't need erratic leadership, and that is what Trump brings. Trump should not be running a turnkey lemonade stand, let alone the biggest global economy in the world. He should not be running this because he doesn't have the temperament to do any of this. Anyways, so many people voted for this. Lots of farmers voted for this. And that is the reason why we are in this situation, because we wouldn't be in this situation if anybody else, we wouldn't be in this situation if a half dead goat was running the government. All right, y'all. Let me know what you think about all of this put together. Join the conversation. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.